You went to the doctor, they told you it was stress. You went to HR and they told you be resilient. You went through all the systems, the school system, the healthcare system, the workplace system, and they looked at your experience and told you, well, it didn't quite fit the criteria. You kept waiting for someone with the right credentials to confirm what you already knew in your body. You waited for the institution to finally validate what you'd been trying to articulate for years. This is the Hierophant, and in this deck, nobody's holding the keys. Hi guys, I'm MJ. Welcome to the Arcana Surrender, a Major Arcana series for people who are learning tarot, for people who are rebuilding their intuition, or doing both. I'm going to be working through all 22 cards of the Major Arcana, one video at a time, using my own deck, the Arcana Surrender Tarot. I made this deck specifically for neurodivergent brains like mine, for people who are late diagnosed, ADHD, ADHD, for highly sensitive folk, burnt out people, or all of it. I made it Major Arcana only on purpose. I do believe the Major Arcana deserves our full attention before we add anything else, especially while learning tarot. The 22 first cards of the tarot, they are the foundation, the archetypes. They're the big themes of a human life. And if you learn them deeply, if we take our time, and if we let them become part of our lives and part of how we think, if they become automatic for us, everything else in tarot opens up. So we're going to be taking our time here, no rushing through, just you, me, and these 22 cards. One video at a time. Subscribe if you want to be here for it. And if you want to read with this deck yourself, the link will be in the description. The Hierophant is card number 5 in the Major Arcana. The first thing I want you to notice is that there is no authority figure in this card. The traditional Hierophant is a pope robed on a throne, 2 fingers raised in blessing, 2 acolytes kneeling before him. The institution at the center, dispensing access to meaning. You come with him, he decides what you get. This card has 4 keys, 4 golden keys, each one different in size and design. They're floating. Nobody's holding them. No one's guarding them. They're just there, all 4 of them, for anyone. 4 because 4 is complete. The 4 elements, the 4 directions, the 4 suits of a tarot. 4 keys means every door, not just one. Every kind of access. Every system of knowing. And none of it is gated. Below the keys, you'll see an open book with living plants growing directly from its spine. Knowledge that isn't static. Knowledge that grows, that produces. Knowledge that's alive. And at the bottom of the cards, you'll see hands reaching upward toward the keys in the book. No kneeling, no waiting to be blessed, just reaching. They get to take. Because the keys are loose and the book's open and no one has to ask permission anymore. On each side of the card, you'll notice classical stone columns. The formal institution is still there. The architecture of authority still exists, but nature's growing over it. Something living is reclaiming what was built to contain. In traditional tarot, the Hierophant is a card of institutions, traditions, and established systems of belief. He represents the organized transmission of knowledge, like religion, education, medicine, law, the structures that society build to hold and pass down meaning. The Hierophant's the bridge between the divine and the human, but a very formal bridge, a mediated one. You access the sacred through him, not around him. The Hierophant is associated with Taurus, with stability, tradition, the value of accumulated wisdom across generations. At his best, he represents the genuine gift of inherited knowledge. The fact that we don't have to start from zero every time. That there are systems built over centuries that hold real understanding. That traditions exist for reasons worth examining before discarding. When the Hierophant shows up upright in a reading, he can point to the value of finding a teacher or a community or sharing a practice with people around you. He can signal that there's accumulated wisdom available to you, that you don't have to figure out everything alone. He can also appear as a prompt to examine your relationship to authority and tradition? What have you inherited that still serves you? And what was never yours to carry? Reverse, the Hierophant tends to point towards institutional failure, dogma that's calcified into harm, or the misuse of authority to gatekeep. Reversed, he's the doctor who dismisses you, the school who penalizes the way your brain works, the system that tells you your experience doesn't meet their criteria. When reversed, it's what happens when the institution stops serving the people it was built to serve and starts serving its own continuity instead. In a spread, the Hierophant almost always raises the question of authority, external versus internal. Whose wisdom are you operating from? Whose permission are you waiting for? And when the system fails you, as systems do, what do you do with all the knowledge you've accumulated yourself? There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from waiting for a system to validate you when you already know. Most of us with burnout histories or late diagnoses with highly sensitive nervous systems, we've spent years inside institutions that were not built for us. The school that called our ADHD a behavioral problem. The workplace that called our sensitivity a professional liability. The healthcare system that heard our symptoms and said, stress, anxiety, try harder. Come back in 6 months. The HR department that heard of our burnout and offered a resilience workshop. And we kept going back because the Hierophant holds the keys, right? The credentials matter because if the doctor doesn't confirm it, it's not real. Because if the system doesn't name it, we don't have permission to respond to it. The late diagnosis is often a Hierophant moment, but not the way people expect. The diagnosis itself can feel like a key finally being handed over. It's meaningful. Having a name officially for what you've been living is genuinely significant. But the Arcana Surrender version of this card asks us something a little harder. What did you already know before the diagnosis? How long did you carry the knowing without the language? And why do we need the institution's language before we let ourselves believe our own experience? The 4 keys in this card are floating free. Nobody's holding them. That's not an accident. The knowledge that actually helped most of us, the understanding of our own nervous systems, the recognition of our own patterns, the wisdom about what we actually need to function, that didn't come from the institution. It came from lived experience and from community and people who'd been through it telling us the truth about what it was. From books written by people who broke the ranks with the official narrative. From the quiet voice in our own bodies that we kept overriding because the system hadn't confirmed it yet and we weren't allowed to. That's all keys, all of it. And none of it requires someone in authority to hand it to you. Look at the hands reaching up at this card. They're not kneeling. They're not waiting for the institution to notice them. They're just reaching. They're going to be taking. Because the keys, they're there and the book's open and the access is not locked. It was just framed that way. This does not mean all institutions are worthless or that credentials don't matter. The ivy growing over the columns isn't tearing the building down. It's just growing alongside it. It's softening it, reclaiming what the building was built near. The Hierophant's wisdom, accumulated tradition, community transmission of knowledge, the value of learning from the people who went before us. It's real, but it doesn't belong to any single gatekeeper. It belongs to everybody who reaches for it. What does the Hierophant ask of us in recovery? He wants us to identify where we're still waiting for permission, to notice where we've outsourced our authority to systems that don't have our best interests at their center. It asks us to start treating our own accumulated experience as knowledge, as valid, as meaningful, as worth building on, regardless of whether anyone with credentials has signed off on it. The book's open, the keys are loose, the hands reaching up, they're yours. Pull this card from the deck, look at the 4 keys, at the hands reaching up. Ask yourself, what do I already know about my body, my brain, my needs, my experience, that I'm still waiting for external people to confirm? And then, what would I do differently if I accepted that my own accumulated experience is a valid form of knowledge? Not the only form, but a valid one. One that doesn't require anybody else's signature to be real. The keys are loose, the book's open, you're allowed to reach. That brings us to the end of this card. If it spoke to you, you can subscribe. We're going to go through all 22 Major Arcana cards together. And if you're new here, start from the beginning of the playlist. It's designed to be taken in order. If you want to read with this deck as well, the link for it will be in the description below. Please also drop in the comments what came up for you with this one. I will read every single one.